Troy, is that you? Troy, I'm so sorry. Troy, I fell into a wormhole. Troy,
Did you?
there were so many things that happened. I was abducted by aliens. Then, when they brought me
Hmm.
back, I had to cook dinner for my dead mother in law. It was
Did you get
crazy.
probed? Because getting kidnapped by aliens is no fun unless you get probed. In my
Actually,
experience, limited.
as a matter of fact, I think I was probed.
I don't know how comfortable are you sitting there because
Not very
apparently.
comfortable. I'm not comfortable. What should we talk about today
Yes,
and our pros talking prose topic? Have
that
have
is a
we
really good question.
see we have a problem. Um our 10 watchers aren't telling us what they want us to talk about. So I'm not getting any suggestions from any of you people who actually watch or
of
listen
the
to us.
actual watching people.
Yeah, so if you're
Well,
watching and
yeah, I
listening and you're thinking there's like a topic that you would love for us to jibber jabber about, please let us know what that is, because I mean, Troy and I, we are a wealth of useless knowledge, and we would love to spew that out to somebody else and give them some information that might be pertinent or useful to them. So if you have something you want us to cover, I'm going to say that right out of the gate this time, and also subscribe and follow, because Troy and I are just a hoot
that's
and a
right.
holler to
You
listen
know
to.
that's right.
Yeah.
You know that's
So
right.
yeah. So I kind of Googled, like, what are the most popular questions that authors are asking. Let me run through these and see if any of these ring a chord with you. Well, first let me do this. Hi, welcome to Pros Talking Prose. Did you know that's who you were talking? That's who we're listening to. You're listening to
Yes.
Troy, and he's got the most amazing voice for audiobooks that you've ever heard. And then you're listening to Stacey, who probably sounds like nails on a chalkboard, but haha, here I am
Haha.
anyway.
Here we
Anyway,
go.
here we go anyway. So yeah, we've got how much does a cost to self-publish a book, which we've covered before. um how do I market my book to readers? That is the illustrious, altogether most painful question for all authors.
That just sparked a topic for me.
Did it? Okay.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, because that is like, in all honesty, this is kind of like one of those things where we've covered this before, but it is something that continually gets asked over and over and over and over again. And I and
Well,
I and I will say that the reason is this, because it's too broad a topic. I think too many authors expect that there is a formula that they can just follow and it's the same
mhm.
for everybody, but it really isn't.
Well, no, and also but the topic that this sparks with me, because I was talking with someone about this the other day, is the difference between marketing and advertising.
Right.
Because authors tend to struggle with this and also struggle with which one is more effective.
Right.
And because that is a very nuanced answer, because marketing is a very long game.
Right.
And advertising is a short game that can spark your marketing. But anyway, that's getting a little bit ahead of ourselves as far as like defining those things and talking about how you should combine those two. Because
Mhm.
I have, it's interesting because the way this works overall is changing so rapidly and has been changing. Um, that it's just, I mean, but the essential principles, the essential things behind it stay the same. Like we were talking about last time, strategy and tactics. Marketing
Mhm.
strategy and advertising strategy are still the same. The principles are still the same, but the tactics for getting there are a bit tricky. And also, as an author, you have choices. And we'll talk about that a little more when we get further into it. But I think the biggest thing to remember is you don't have to be everywhere and everything to everyone,
Yeah,
because you
so
are
let's
not
let's
going to work. That is not going to
yeah.
work for you. It's
Let's
just not.
let's do that. Let's talk about those key principles first. So one of the things that I'm always telling my authors, and it's kind of a wake up call for a lot of them, but when I try to help them understand how they build a marketing strategy, they have to start from a good foundation. And that foundation is actually their brand. And
Hmm.
authors are going to be surprised to
Oh,
hear this if you don't know this, but your brand is actually you. It is not your books. Your brand is the author, the writer, the creator, basically. It is not going to be your books. Your books are the product that your brand produces. It is the thing that you sell,
yes.
but it is not what you are. Your brand is you. So you really are responsible for creating what that looks like, and that can encompass all different kinds of things. I know for Troy, he kind of takes on this this persona as the dude, right? And part of that is resemblance, but also kind of the attitude as well. It's like just the
Well,
dude
right. And
knows.
that's for nonfiction, but
Right.
for fiction is more of the dark thriller noir
Right.
type thing, because that's the type of thing that I write. But I always liken this to like Tide laundry detergent. Like you walk in the aisle and there are 4 million types of Tides. Don't eat the pods. I've heard it's bad for you. Some kids tried it.
Yeah,
I
don't
don't
eat
know.
pods.
It
What are you
was a
doing?
weird trend. Whatever. I don't know why someone wandered in the laundry room and said, "This looks kind of good." And that became a problem. But anyway, so hopefully you as an author aren't suffering from whatever that is.
Don't eat
No, we eat the
Tide.
Tide Pods. But the thing is, Tide, there's a big variety of types of Tide. You walk into the aisle and there's the powder and the HE liquid in the pods and different scents and all that kind of stuff, and stain lifting, stain freeing, stain preventing, all the different types, right? But
Ain't
they're all
coughing.
Tide, right? They're all Tide. Your books are the same way. You are Tide.
Right.
And your books and your genre in that case would be laundry detergent. My genre
Right.
is laundry detergent. My brand is Tide. That's a particular type of laundry detergent. Underneath my brand, I have several different products that I sell. All of them are different, but they're all related to the same genre, the same topic, the same me is the one that creates them,
Right.
right? So, and some people like Gain, and some people like Tide, and some people like whatever the hell there is out there. Who knows?
You're gonna
But
get really,
you
are
know,
you gonna go down a laundry detergent loophole being
I'm
like
trying
you're
trying desperately
spiraling, you're
not to
spiraling, Troy. You're spiraling.
accept that not everybody likes the same thing. So that means that whether you offer Tide Pods and somebody else offers Game Pods, somebody likes the different things,
Right.
right? So uh, that's why it goes back to not trying to be everything to everyone, because not everyone is going to like what you do, regardless of
Right.
how universal you try to be. And the more universal you try to be, honestly, the more your stuff's going to suck. So just don't try to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, that's another topic for another time. But except that to understand that also Tide does marketing and advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Advertising is when they have an ad on television that you see that's they pay for that spot on TV to get your eyeballs onto their product,
Right.
right? But they also do marketing, which is placement in the store, and
Right.
which is simple things like word of mouth. You need to get that stain out. Tide, right, is the solution for you, or
Marketing,
whatever.
yeah. So marketing is kind of
So,
like your long-term overarching goals and strategies that will point people to your brand as a solution to whatever problem they have. So in the book market, your solution is, it could be boredom, it could be, a zest for solving puzzles, it could be, just sometimes just a book to go to sleep to. Sometimes it's a book
mhm,
that you're doing research and you need to research, and your book is the book. Whatever it is, your marketing strategy is, like Troy said, it's that long-term overarching kind of like idea of getting people to your book and whatever that takes. Now, Tide has something that we should touch on, and that's longevity in the market. And
mhm.
it's the same thing for Stephen King. It's the same thing for Dan Brown, John Grisham. These guys, the reason everybody knows them is because they've been in the marketplace for 150 years.
Mhm.
J.K. Rowling, she's getting to that point. Her books were very popular there. But you know what? To be honest, I didn't hear about J.K. Rowling until book 4. I didn't even know about Harry Potter until book 4, until it started to really take off. It's the same thing with Hunger Games. Book 3 was already out before I found out about Hunger Games. So it's kind of one of those things where you got to realize as an author, you don't want to get so hung up on, oh my gosh, I wrote book 1 and nobody likes me. Well, it's because nobody knows you. Their
Hmm.
longevity in the marketplace is a thing. So there's that.
Hmm.
But to help burst that or boost that or make that a shorter term, like getting eyeballs on your on your product, that is where advertising comes in, right? That's where the
Right.
ads come in. So but Troy's hit on something pretty important here, and that is that the most successful authors are going to be these authors that have that long-term iterative approach to their marketing campaigns, right? Like there's this
Hmm.
long-term goal, there's a long game involved. And that's you need to treat marketing as an ongoing process, not just as a short
Hmm.
burst that, oh, I'm going to run this one campaign and that means I'm going to be successful and I'm going to be the number one bestseller and I'm going to be amazing. Um, because if that were the case, we would have forgotten about Stephen King long ago, because
Right.
he kept writing books, he kept existing in the marketplace. One book isn't going to get you the enough eyeballs to stay relevant and stay popular in the marketplace. You have to keep creating. So there's
Right.
that. Do you have anything to
Well,
say about
yeah,
that?
that's another part of it is so advertising, what you almost think of advertising like is there are times where advertising fits your marketing strategy to bring in a burst of people.
Right.
But the reason we say so often is that the two things that you own that are most important is your website and your email
Email
list,
list.
is because those are the places where you can do marketing, long-term relationship building with your customers. If
Mm-hmm.
you think about it, Tide has built relationships with their customers through generations.
Mm-hmm.
Your mom used Tide, so now
Mm-hmm.
you use Tide. Now maybe use a different kind now.
Right.
Maybe you have a fancy washer and you use certain types to go with that washer or whatever the case may be, right? But it's still you turn to that same brand, right? Because it's a generational thing, it's a word of mouth thing, that type of thing. Okay. So it's the same thing with books as you're building a relationship with that reader. And
Right.
therefore, a relationship with them where they're willing to share your work with their friends or their family or whoever, because that's going to be the most powerful marketing that you have. Is somebody else talking about your work, not you talking about it, right? But
Right.
in order to do that, to remind them about your work, you still need to be ever present in the marketplace. You just
Exactly.
have to be. If you
Right.
write one book and disappear, your fans will disappear with that book because they're not going to have something new to tell their friends about. Their friends will be like, "Are you still talking about that one book?" And if you're like me, yes, you are still talking about that one book. But, you know, but I mean, your friends are done hearing about that, right? Or your family's
Right.
done hearing about that.
Right.
They want to hear what's new, what is
Right.
next. People that know me and know I'm an author, they go, "What are you working on now? What's coming out next?" Right? Those are the
Right.
questions they ask. They don't go, "How is that book you wrote 4 years ago selling now?" No, they don't care, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Now, there will be people that find you now and then go back and find those other books as well. And so it's good to have those in your cycle, in your marketing cycle, to remind people these things still exist, but your most popular books are going to be the books that you're releasing right now. That's the way it's going to be.
That's
And you
exactly
bring
true.
people to those and into your ecosystem through short-term advertising. You release a book, so I've got a launch advertising plan that I know that I may even lose money on that plan as far as short term, but I know that in the long term, that plan is going to help build my brand and continue my my career essentially. But
Right.
that's the marketing after you bring them into your fold. And that marketing is as important or more important than advertising. And a lot of times you'll see author coaches and stuff focus on advertising. Like, oh, you got to run Facebook ads, you got to run Amazon ads. But the real question is, what do you do once that person has read your book?
Yeah.
What do you do once that person is actually in your email and your website ecosystem? That's the most important thing. What do you do with them? I know
Yeah.
my dog's in the background
McLean
yawning
is talking. Well, he's
and
like just
talking.
yawning and
It's like,
he's so
feed
cute.
me some
For those of you
food.
who are just listening, it's McLean. McLean is a German Shepherd, and he is just such a fun dog. Such a personality. Um, anyway, so well, the next thing I wanted to point out too is that you also want to know and learn how to read analytics so that you can
Oh,
understand when you should test
yes.
and pivot and make changes and adjustments, because that always needs to happen too. I know a lot of times I'll tell my authors to, and this is just, it's the case for everybody, but I've worked with about, I think I'm up to, I haven't done accounts since last year, but I think I might be up to 250 authors now that I've worked with. And what's crazy is that that's a lot of people to manage. Um, and if I had to go in there and like tell everybody every 6 months, 3 to 6 months, hey guys, go in there and, you know, check your metadata and make sure it's still doing its job. Um, a lot of them are going to look at me like, what are you talking about? It's something that I always talk about when I set them up. I know it's something that they forget about. It's something that actually I'm going to have you, Troy, help me work out so that I can send out emails on automation like, hey, time to check your metadata.
Hmm.
But it's one of those things that I know authors don't do. I have a lot of authors that come into my ecosystem that say, well, I published a book 5 years ago and nothing's happening with it. And I always have to look at them and go, well, have you done anything with it? Well, no. I just assume that it just seems like it just fizzled out. Well, I'm like, are you marketing? Do you change your analytics? Did you update your
Oh,
covers? Did you do like a second edition? You kind of do you keep
update
writing?
your
Are you writing
blurbs,
more? Yeah.
all
Like
that kind of stuff.
all those
Yeah,
kinds of things.
because I just went through that. Like, so I mean, I've been talking to some other authors too, and I mean, it's happens to all of us. Is and it's this is almost another topic, and it's almost not even appropriate for our podcast because of the type of people that we have listening to us for the most part. And I can say, well, you know what, you really need to keep up with your backlist because that you need to check your metadata and your covers and all that kind of stuff with your backlist, right? Well,
Hmm.
many of you don't have a backlist.
Right.
Like, you're trying to still get your front list, like
Right.
that's what you're working on right now. But even if you have one book in the past, when you release book two in the series, you should be going back and looking at book number one and going, okay, are the categories still the same? Are the keywords still the same? Is the metadata stuff still the same? Or has
Hmm.
that changed? Because Amazon changes the stuff regularly. And
All the
if you're
time.
plugged into the industry, you will know that this is happening. But many authors are not, because they write a book, they do their big launch, they set it up, they launch that book out into the world, and then they hunker down and start to write the next book. And that book they just released is in the
It's just
background.
kind of forgotten.
It's just
Yeah.
kind of forgotten in the background. And if you write a lot of books, it's kind of a problem, right? But even if you write a few, it seems to be a problem because those of us writing a lot of books are full-time authors. So we need to take time out of our schedules and stuff to relook at our backlist, relook at those things and fix things, right? But if you're still doing a day job and writing novels and doing all that, this marketing type stuff and trying to run ads maybe, and all that kind of stuff, it can feel very overwhelming to be like, and now I have to do one more thing,
Right.
right? But it really doesn't take that long if you put it on a schedule and
If you
just give
just
yourself a
yeah
couple
if you
hours
just
to
give
do
yourself
it.
like an anniversary date that like
Mhm.
okay, on
Every once
this
a
once a
quarter, just
quarter
go
I'm
in
going to go
and
back.
look and
Hmm.
see what's happening, even if you've only got one or two books. Because, first of all, that helps you build a habit for doing that when you do have more books, hopefully.
Hmm.
Um, but it also just keeps you on top of what's happening. with Amazon and with the industry, and you're making sure that nothing has gone wrong terribly in the background while you
Yeah.
haven't been paying attention. I know
I'll
some
just get
authors that are obsessive, they check their sales like every
every
hour
day. Yeah. I
and
know.
every
It's like
day, and they're just like,
ridiculous.
oh my goodness, did somebody bought my book, somebody bought my book. Okay, relax, right? You don't have to do that. That's a little
Right.
overboard. But at least once every couple of weeks, at least see if you're selling anything.
I would
And if you're
say,
running ads, you need to be a little more
yeah,
proactive than that. I
exactly.
mean, that's
Exactly.
if you're running paid ads, especially, because paid ads can get out of hand to a point where you're spending a lot of money and not making any, and that's not
And
great.
that's
So,
why I say that running ads, that's a short term burst. Don't do that. You're going to go bankrupt. Troy
oh,
actually has the old adage of, if most of the time when you run ads, just don't expect to make any return on them. And that's
right.
probably true.
Oh, because we need to talk about lifetime value of a customer. And
Mm-hmm.
this is when you only have a couple books, this is a little more challenging to think of than when you have a catalog, but it still matters. What you need to know is what readers are going to come into book number one. And this is why, okay, another rule of thumb, you should not run paid ads until you have a trilogy,
Right.
at least. And the reason is you're not going to make any money off of running ads to one book. It's actually going to cost you money most of the time. And the reason, and this is why people struggle, is because they don't understand this principle, is that where you make money is on what we call read through. Who reads the first book, then reads the second book, reads the third book. This is the other thing that people miss in that lifetime value thing is people are going to drop off of book one and
Mm-hmm.
not read book two. But there are some people who are going to come into book two that have never read and won't read book one.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that drop off from book two to book three. So you have kind of a steady decline of those that have read all three books. That's a lower number than the ones that read book one. However, you do have some people that come into book two or to book three and don't go back and read those other two books.
Right.
So you have to be careful about how you advertise and how you've written your books so that they can be read as standalones without having to go back to the first one. But you also have to understand what the value of your customer is. If I bring in a customer on an ad, what's the average value of someone who reads all three books? Because that helps you inform what you're actually making from running an ad but you need to have systems in place to bring them into your ecosystem and tell them about the second book and tell them about the third book.
Right.
If you don't do that, they do not know,
Right.
right? You
You
have to
have
have
to
things set up in a
you have
system
to
that,
remember that every reader that goes into any store, we'll just talk about Amazon's algorithm for a second because it's the most common. But anytime I go on to Amazon's algorithm, I'm going to get suggested products, right? I'm going to get suggested books. I'm going to get suggested, just things that might interest me because of the way I click. It's because of the way I operate inside my Amazon store. My Amazon store is completely different from Troy's. So when I go searching for a book, Amazon's algorithm, bless its pea pickin' evil heart, will tell me what it thinks I mean. And
Mhm,
sometimes it's not at all what I mean, but it will tell
mhm,
me what it thinks I mean. So I'll have a lot of authors call me and complain because they'll say, I can't find my book. I can't. My friend, he went in there and he typed in my book, but he can't find it. And it's because Amazon's algorithm is guessing what this guy is looking for based on his previous shopping habits, not because
mhm.
he's saying, oh, well, this matches all these algorithm pieces that this particular author put in as his book title and book. It's going, oh, this guy is most likely to
Right.
be shopping for this. And I know I'm going to make more money if I direct him towards this product because this is probably what he's looking on. That's what that algorithm does, guys. So it's working for
Yes.
you as the author and also against you as the author, but it also does it for the consumer. So both
Mhm.
parts of that algorithm are working simultaneously, and you have to know that the discoverability of you as an author goes up or down, not just on what you're setting, but also what other people are looking for. So
Right.
I want people to understand that when they're setting up their advertising and they're setting up their metadata and they're setting up their thing, they need to remember that they're going to meet readers where they are, not where they hope they are.
Right. The
So don't be setting up your things thinking, I want this pretentious 30-year-old woman to read my book. And I know that this pretentious 30-year-old woman is going to be searching for this. But
right.
because you're probably wrong.
Right.
So
And
rather
part of
than
that is we
yeah,
don't get really great data from Amazon
mm-mm.
about who
You
is
don't get it from
searching,
any
but
store
we get data about which search terms are the most
terms.
popular. And that
Right.
impacts not only what you put in the background metadata of your book, but the keywords that you use when you're advertising your book as well.
Exactly.
Now, the other part of that is, and I love that example that you brought. My friend went on and he said he can't find my book. Does your friend, if you have a business book, does your friend regularly read business books?
Right.
If he
Exactly.
does not regularly read and buy business books from Amazon, Amazon does not know what he's looking for in relationship to a business book. Now, typically, if he puts in your book name and the title, like your name as an author and the title of your book, you will show up somewhere on the list. That doesn't even mean you'll show up number one,
Right.
especially if your title is a common one.
Right.
I could write a book on how to win friends and influence people. And unless a whole lot of people suddenly bought my book instead of the other book by that popular name, I'm not going to show up on the top of search results, even if people type in the title and my name, because what's going to come up first? What's going to come up first is the
Yeah.
well-known book that Amazon's going to say, this person must not know who wrote this book,
Mm-hmm.
the popular book. They're not going to assume they're looking for the obscure Troy Lambert version of this book,
The
right?
obscure Troy Lambert.
That's probably not going to happen,
The
right? If I
obscure
write a
Troy
book
Lambert
on,
version of this book.
well, yeah, I mean, and that's also
That's
goes to if
true.
I'm writing outside my genre,
Right.
then Amazon has to figure out. That's why a lot of people will use, like, for their nonfiction, they use their middle
Uh,
initial, and
yep.
then for their fiction, they use their regular name. And the reason is
Dean
so Amazon doesn't get confused,
Dean Koontz did
right?
this for a while when he was writing paranormal thrillers versus his just thrillers. And anytime when it was like a kind of a more monster themed book. I think he was doing that for a while early on in his career. He had Dean R. Koontz books and then just Dean
Hmm.
Koontz books. And I think using that middle initial was helping it, the algorithms distinguished between the two different kinds of books. But
Hmm.
I don't know if he continues to do that, but that's kind of one of the things that I noticed he was doing there early on.
Hmm.
So just remember that like when you're looking for your ideal reader, I don't want to say this in such a way that people get mad, but your ideal reader is sometimes it's not who or where what you think they are. Sometimes
Hmm.
like so it's a good idea to always do a bit of research. If your ideal reader is a 20-year-old, Gen Zer who says words like period whenever they talk, you're probably going to be hanging out on TikTok a little bit more. And if you don't know a thing about TikTok and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to advertise on Facebook for my Gen Zer, you're probably going to not find too many of them. The only time you're going to probably
Hmm.
find one of those kids, that way is by their grandmother saying, hey, I found a great book for you and I got it for you for Christmas, like,
Yeah, or they went onto Facebook to manage their grandma because she won't answer her text messages,
right.
and
They accidentally
they
came across your
accidentally
book.
came across an ad.
Yeah.
Well, and part of that too is, so knowing your audience,
Right.
knowing where your audience is, but also understanding that if you write a certain type of fiction, it's going to appeal to a
To a
certain
certain
type of
reader.
audience.
Hmm.
So whether you want that to appeal to them or not doesn't matter. And one of the big mistakes that people make, I see this with guy writers all the time. In fact, I had a guy writer, this was not too long ago, this was last year, and he told me he was going to start this thing and it was going to be fiction for men. And I go, okay, so you're extremely limiting your audience because men don't read nearly as much as women
Right.
do on just in general,
Just
just in general.
statistically. Hmm.
And statistically speaking, no matter what your genre is, your average reader, 70% to 75% of your readers are women. If
Hmm.
you're in romance categories, it's even higher than that. But if
Right.
you're even in other genre fiction, horror, mystery, things like that, where you'd
I
think
would say
thrillers,
even
where
in
you'd
business
think
books.
even in business books, your percentage of readers that are female is higher than the percentage of
Hmm.
men. So if you do that, when you target certain things that narrow your audience, I had a guy write a thriller, and this has been a while ago now, and told me that it was a Christian thriller for men. I
Mm.
go, so now you narrowed it further by putting the label Christian on it. Then you narrowed it even further by saying for men. So you're looking at 30% of 2% of the reading population. So you're looking at about 0.6% of the population is someone who might be interested in your book.
Which, by the way, I mean,
That's
I'm going to play some devil's advocate on this because
well, no, that's
that sounds like it's bad. Sometimes it's okay to niche out like that because it is still a super amount of
that's still a large
readers.
number of
I
people.
will say this though. When you niche out like that, what it does is it helps you sift to the top of a very big pile. So, what I like
Mhm.
to liken Amazon's onslaught of books published every year as is a big pile of books. You and imagine 4.4 million because that's about how many. So what Amazon has to do is it has to turn around and say, okay, where's this new inventory going to go? And it will categorize this inventory into different piles, right? So you've got your horror mysteries, you've got your horror monsters, you've got your horror thrillers, you've got your over here, you've got your murder mysteries that are just you've got regular murder mysteries, you've got your cozy mysteries, you've got so they make these piles of books. Your job as an author when you come up with all these keywords and categories is to try to sift to the top of a pile. Okay. And
Mhm.
those piles are still pretty dang big. So
Mhm.
you have to sift to the top. When you niche out, that's what you're kind of doing is you're going, okay, I'm going to get into the smaller pile because I think if I get into the smaller pile, I can get to the top easier. So
Right.
that's what niching does. But like Troy said, when you do that, it's almost like triangulating a waypoint in a GPS. What you're trying to do with your keywords, categories, and your book blurb and all the things that you've got kind of trying to help put you in a place is what you're trying to do is you're hoping that this is all going to crisscross so that
Mhm.
when you're sifting to the top of the pile there are people out here just in the general population that are going to kind of go, oh, I found this book over here, or I found this book over here.
Right.
So that's what you're kind of trying to do, and you're trying to find what we call cross audiences or cross
Mhm.
readers, and that's what we're trying to do. But you're right, Troy. You kind of limit yourself if you're trying to specifically,
Well,
and if you don't know how to do this cross thing, and you just say, okay, I'm only going to do this, then what you do is you limit this,
yes, you
the
niche
crossing.
yourself down too far, and
Mhm.
also you're talking about a target audience that it is not easy to advertise to.
Right.
Because how do you identify in social media or in Amazon advertising or whatever who is a Christian male?
Right.
Well, that's demographic information that you can't really
You
target
can't
for.
see, yeah, you can't really
I mean,
see
you can
it.
use some keywords to try to limit your
Hmm.
ads to that, but if you limit them too much, what's going to happen with Amazon and Facebook is they're not going to serve your ads.
Hmm.
The ads just aren't going to go to anyone because they're like, we're not sure who to send this to. We don't have a big enough pool of people who have answered enough questions or purchased enough things to let us know that this is who they
This is
are.
who they are. Hmm.
So we don't have a way to target them. So unless you've got a magical way to target something that's that narrow, then especially demographics of people that are related to religion, politics, sex, gender, sexual orientation, things like that. Those are hard to target for because, for the most part, that's what we call PII, personal identifying information. And you
Mhm.
can't use that. Like, you're not supposed to. People, big companies do. Let's just be honest about it. But you're not supposed to be able to use that information to target and advertise to someone.
Right, right.
I mean, you
So,
can, if in the old days, you could get, there was one guy that he targeted his Facebook ads so specifically that he could target one person. He did an experiment to do it, and he targeted one of his best friends. And he was one of the only people that saw that ad. And it was back when you could actually just like prove all that. You could have it was
wow.
amazing. So you could at one point. Now it's a little more challenging to do that because the marketing categories are a little broader as far as on Facebook, and they're trying to get you to use AI to help maneuver your ads
Everybody's trying to get you
and
to
help
use AI
them
now.
be more successful, which in some cases works, in other cases doesn't. But that's another topic. But
Right,
the point being that you need to know your audience, because we've talked about this before, but you also need to know your audience in a more general way. Like, do they
right.
listen to podcasts too? Or do they not? Because in some cases, there's some genres where you can be on podcasts all day long and it's not never going to move the needle for
Right.
your stuff at all. But like when my friend Jim and I wrote nonfiction about Star Trek, when we were on Star Trek podcasts, it moved the needle
Right.
because that's our audience, right? We
Right.
know that that's our audience. So, you have to pay attention to what your audience actually does, not what you think or wish that they did.
Yeah, exactly.
So if you're
Exactly.
um, whatever type of reader as well as an author, you can tell if you don't ever do something that you think people might do for marketing or advertising or whatever, they probably don't do it either. They probably don't do it either. So,
So yeah, one of the things that I wanted to point out was that just as far as like key foundational parts of marketing versus advertising, these things that we just touched on, like the branding, the long-term strategy, the overarching kind of driving audiences to you to test your stuff, and then to also be careful that you
mhm,
know where your audience is going to be. All those things are kind of like, those are kind of like your marketing things. Those aren't really like the tactics involved, but some tactics to use. I know that our number one tactic that Troy and I always recommend is having a website, because
mhm,
you have to have a place where people can find you. And so yeah, social
mhm.
media is good, but social media comes and goes. I mean, we all remember MySpace, right?
Yeah. What was your song? What was your
Oh,
song?
I loved, at the time, I was really into Hootie and the Blowfish.
Uh-huh.
So I think I had like devil he has one that's called like something running from an angel or running from the devil or something like that. Anyway, that was me.
Mm. Nice. No, but wait, so this is a good point because you said about Gen Z, like you're going to find them on TikTok and other
You
platforms
can.
like
Yeah.
that, right? You're not going to necessarily find them on Facebook. So it depends on your audience as well
Right.
as like what you're trying to do,
Right.
right? And where you're trying to reach your audience. So as your audience ages, where they are on social media will also change, which
Right.
means that if you want to reach those same people, you need to change as
Right.
well, right? There's a lot of movement and variation in social media, but you can have the same website for years and
Yeah.
just update it and change it. You can
Right.
have the same email list for years, and you will find that there's a certain amount of churn
Right.
that is involved with that. What churn means is just people that come and go off of your list. New
Right.
people come, old people leave. old people pass away, other things happen, right? So
Mm-hmm.
your list gets smaller and then it gets bigger, and it varies, it moves in and out with what people, and then some people are just not interested anymore and all those type of things. So you have a certain amount of churn on your list, but it remains yours forever.
Right.
Right. If it changes the platform where you get the people changes from Facebook to TikTok, they still sign up with the same form and still come to the same website.
Right.
That still is your home for all of your books and all of your
Yeah. So
stories
you
and all
want to
of your
make sure
stuff out
that
there.
you have a consistent constant available to your
Hmm.
readers, because I mean one thing that Troy, it's a very good point, is the first thing anybody's going to do is Google you
Hmm.
anytime anything happens that way. So the purpose of the purpose, another tactic, is the purpose of that website, and that purpose should always be to collect email addresses. Number one,
Hmm.
100%. Don't leave home without it. Like, it needs to have an
Yes.
email list collector. So what you're doing is you're creating either a pop-up form or just a on a landing page that has like sign up for my newsletter or stay connected with me or whatever, however you want to operate.
Yeah.
um that that is going to be your customer nurturer. That's how you're going to be able to reach
Hmm.
out to those people, and that's the one thing as an asset to your business that you own
Hmm.
aside from your IP.
Well, and how, so this is the other point about like advertising and marketing, like the way that you collect those email addresses has also changed. So
Mm-hmm.
whether you want that form on a landing page or a pop-up is different now than it
Mm-hmm.
used to be. And then what type of pop-up and how it actually works, because some of them are extremely irritating and people are tired of them.
Yes.
And so if you use that type of pop-up, that is the easiest and quickest way to get someone to leave your website.
Right.
So you need to be aware of these things as well, is that on the marketing side and the nurturing side, when you have your website, you need to have some things in place that make it so that people are comfortable there,
Yeah.
right? If your site is
They
full of
find you're
ads
comfortable.
and pop-ups everywhere and all of that kind of stuff, you might be making a few pennies from Google Analytics or Google AdSense as well as from your books, but you also might just be turning people off and sending them running the other direction.
Right.
So you need to be really, really cautious about how you use these things, right?
Right.
Because the things that we like and that we look for are different now than what they used to be. But the fact is, they still live on a website, right? You don't
Right.
get to have a pop-up form on Amazon that gets people to sign up for your email list. Now you can put a sign-up link in the back of your books. That's another form of marketing. It's another way to gather people. At the end of reading one of your books, they can go, "Oh, I do want to follow this author. I want to read more of their stuff," and sign up for your email list there. That's always a good thing to do.
I
People
have a
can do that
client
from
right
their
now.
Kindles and other stuff too.
Yeah, I have a
So,
client right now that's really utilizing that as a tool, and they're finding a significant amount of success with that. So that is
mhm,
something that is working right now. So putting a link at the end of
yeah,
your book, yeah, follow me, sign up for
yeah.
this free backstory on this character, and yeah, people are liking that.
Yeah,
So
lead magnets that you give people something for free for
yeah.
signing up for your list. Especially when you have that at the end of one of your books. So they've already paid money for something that you have, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're rewarding them with something for free. That is a really great way to bring them into your ecosystem when they've already kind of signed on to who you are. They've already
Yeah.
read some of your
It's a
stuff.
good way to get some
Um,
demographics from people that might have bought your book from a different platform as well. Because, like Troy and I
mhm,
said, you are not going to get that demographic information from the platforms themselves. But if they're signing up for your newsletter after they've read your book, then you're getting that opportunity to nurture that relationship. So
mhm,
that's really good. That's you're leaving money on the table if you're not trying to utilize some form of that. Um, so just keep that
mhm,
in
for
mind
sure.
when you're formatting books. And this is something that you don't have to oh well, I've already published my book and I can't do that now. Actually, I have this client she started utilizing this tool long after we published book 1 and 2. And so we've gone back, and in the ebooks, we've just added these pages. It doesn't cost anything. We didn't have to reformat covers because it's a digital book, right? So we just added that page to the ebook and re-uploaded the file,
Hmm.
and it's working. It's working really, really well.
Yeah.
So
Well, and even if you've got physical books, you can go in and add like a QR code to the
yeah.
bottom of your about author page. You also should have an also buy page. And yes, I
Mhm.
know in print books that gets out of date and you don't update that all the time. But that's one of those things that every couple of years you
You
can
can go
even
back
update
and
your
do.
print books so that
Hmm.
people that are buying your new print books over time are also getting the full list of things that you've written as well, plus that QR code or some kind of an opportunity for them to join your email list.
Exactly.
It's just, I mean, and let me be clear about this part of it too, in that when we're talking about advertising costing money, what we're talking about is you're paying Facebook or Amazon or BookBub or whatever to make you and your book visible to their users,
Hmm.
email people, listeners, whatever,
Right.
right? Marketing still costs money. It's
Hmm.
just less money, and it's not paying to get in front of an audience, but it's paying to maintain that space for them to come, which is paying for your website, paying for your email provider,
Hmm.
paying for those different types of things. So there's still a money cost involved. And when you're figuring out what kind of return you're getting on your investment, you need to understand what those costs are as well.
Right.
It's a small cost, relatively speaking, but it's still a cost. So,
Exactly. Exactly. So some other tactics we've already touched on, and we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but there's the paid advertising, like Troy was saying. Those are so specific, guys, and there's a whole other wormhole for each platform and the way that those ads work. So be mindful of the fact that when you want to run Amazon ads, you're going to look for a specialist that knows how to run Amazon ads. If you want to run Facebook ads, you're going to look for a specialist who knows how to run Facebook ads. Or, go down YouTube University and see how that actually works. But be mindful of dates, be mindful of strategies and how recent and
mhm.
current they are, because things do rapidly change. I will say, just last week, it was like the beginning of last week, I was publishing a book for a client, and last week, just FYI, I published 3 books for clients. So last week, while I'm publishing these books, the second author that I published, um, Amazon shut down KDP. There was like an update or something that happened for about a period of, like, I don't know, maybe it was just a few hours, but because
Mhm.
I was in there as frequently as I was in there, I saw it. I saw the maintenance, and I was like, oh, and sure enough, it was like from the book from the first book that week that I published to book 3 that week, they had changed something in their KDP um questions that they were asking. And one of the things that they started doing is they started, like, for every client that signs up for a new KDP account, they're asking for your driver's license, and they're making you do
Mhm.
an ID verification. They're also making you do, inside of the setup, the metadata setup, they got rid of some categories, and they've changed some categories again. So
Mhm.
just, it's really interesting, but unless you're in there all the time, you're not going to know that. So that's why we always recommend you get professionals that know what they're doing. So
Mhm.
that being said, remember, when you're doing that with advertising, the algorithms change things frequently. The
Right.
next thing I want to bring up, excuse me, is your yes, social media, same rules. Social media, Ingram Spark,
Yes.
LinkedIn, those
Well,
guys,
let me just
they've changed their
preface
stuff.
really quick. This is why almost every one advertising platform that you deal with will allow you to run a campaign forever, like an
Right.
evergreen campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The times when you should do this are so close to never
Yeah.
that I mean, I can't, there's very, very few situations where, unless you're running an automatic Amazon ads ad to a book that ad is doing well and that book is doing well. So unless you're fortunate enough to be doing that and that ad just keeps performing well, because as Amazon changes the algorithm, they change the automatic things that they're doing with that. But
Exactly.
unless you're in that exact position, there is almost never a time when you should run an ad more than a couple weeks without having a deadline when it ends. Now,
Right.
you can go in before that 2 weeks is over and extend it if it's working. But if you forget about it and that ad continues to run, and suddenly the results from that ad tank, you can empty your bank account really quick with
Really
very little
fast.
to refill it.
Yeah.
Okay, Amazon is less likely to just gobble up your money than Facebook is, but Facebook is quite likely to just gobble up your money until you tell them to stop. So
Mm-hmm.
that's not good. For those of you, in case you had any questions about that, that's not positive because there's nothing you can do. You can say, well, I didn't get any results from these ads. I didn't realize it was still running. And Facebook will say, oh,
So sorry.
that's too bad. And you're like,
Yeah.
can I get a refund? And they'll be like,
No.
oh, that's too bad. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, they won't even be that
They're
sympathetic.
not even that
Like it'll
nice.
be it'll be a little lower than that. So just be aware that they all give you that option. Don't do it. And remember, advertising is short term.
Short term.
So you're
Short
going
term.
to do short term, have it end, and if you need to, you can duplicate that ad and set
Info.
up a new set, or you can, but this is for short term. And if an ad does keep working, yes, you can scale that ad. But the only way you're going to scale it is by stopping, analyzing it, and seeing if it's working and adding more money to that. But being aware that as you do that, the likelihood that at some point it's going to stop working becomes greater,
Right.
right? So you need to be paying attention. So don't set up ads to just run forever and let them run forever. That is going to end in sadness and disaster. And then you're going to come on this video and comment and say, you talked about advertising, so I went and did it, and it didn't work for me. And then I'm going to tell you all the reasons that it didn't. And I'm going to be sad. You're going to be sad. We're all
We'll
going to be
all be
sad. Let's not
sad.
be sad. Let's not be sad.
Let's not be
Let's just
sad.
skip that part. Anyway.
So same thing with social media, community engagement kind of it ebbs and flows. It's so funny. Sometimes I'll see ads for people like, where they're saying, um, post every single day, post 3 times a day. Well, actually posting every day on the Instagram algorithm actually doesn't even work anymore. So it's like it's actually more targeted than that. So it really just depends on stuff. So be careful what advertising
Mm,
information you're listening to.
yeah,
It
and like
changes.
on Instagram, what it depends on too is if you what you post.
Right.
So posting the same thing 3 times a day
Mm,
does not work.
mm-mm.
Post if you're going to post 5 times a day, those should be five distinct, very different posts at very
Focused,
different times with
different
very
focus.
different
Yeah.
purposes,
Mm-hmm.
because that's the only way you're going to continue to get engagement. Otherwise, basically, Facebook and Instagram are going to say same old, and
Mm-hmm.
their viewers don't want to see it. The users don't want to see it. They're done with
They'll
that
just
type of thing.
scroll
They
past
get
it.
bored. They'll
Uh-huh.
scroll right past it. So you have to have something that stops the scroll.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to mean that you don't have the same thing 4 times in a row.
Right.
Now, it used to be
Exactly.
you did that 4 times in a row, the same thing, because different times a day, different audiences would see it. It would be highly unlikely that your morning audience is going to see your afternoon post.
Mm-hmm.
That is just not the case anymore because they're not as time sensitive because the
Mm-hmm.
way the algorithm works. So that used to work does not work anymore. It's a terrible idea now.
Right.
So don't do
Right.
that.
So
Anyway.
be careful of that kind of stuff. But some other tactics that I would recommend are some book giveaways. Book giveaways are still working. People still
Hmm.
again, it's niche. So it's definitely going to be something that you're going to target. It's going to be short term, it's not long term, and it's definitely something you want to prep for and have a purpose and goal for. And that purpose and goal can't just be, oh, I'm going to give away my book for a week because I want them to buy my other book. Well, that's not like, honestly, it should always be email focused. It should always be email focused. I'm just going to give you that. Or review
Hmm.
focused, getting reviews. Um, Cross promotions are still still working, and collaborations are still
Hmm.
working. I know Troy does work with that. And it works. Repurposing content works. If you have something that you've published
Oh.
a long time ago and you're like, oh, well, I just, it's kind of gone stagnant, then repurpose it, rebrand it, refresh it, put it out there as an in between two major projects. It might be something that just gives you enough holdover that you can get some more readers on your
Hmm.
stuff. Leverage your awards. I had a client the other day ask me, what's the purpose of awards? The purpose of awards is strictly for leverage. It's strictly to be
Hmm.
able to say award-winning author. That's the
Social proof.
only reason you do it. So
Hmm.
you don't need every award in the world. You don't need to earn 16 different awards, because yes, they are expensive to apply for. So apply for the ones you know you have a good shot at. Apply for the ones that actually will give you the leverage that you want. So
Hmm.
understand and know the audience of those awards. Understand and understand the weight of that award, and whether or not it's worth it
Hmm.
for you. But awards are specifically and strictly something that authors early on will apply for until they get that social proof. Like Troy said, you're not going to see
Hmm.
Stephen King applying for book awards right now.
Mm.
He
Yeah, he's going to get ones that you don't have to apply
You
for,
don't
that
have to
somebody
apply for
just
them.
picks it.
Yeah, but
But he did,
he's
back in the day, he
back in the
submitted to the
day.
Derringers. He
Hmm.
submitted to those awards
Early
that
on,
fit that niche,
right?
because it's a way to validate
Hmm.
your writing work,
Right. And
basically. So it's
that's what I'm
proof.
trying
It's
to
just
say is
social
you
proof.
you don't have to
Yeah.
do it later on in your career as much as you might want to do it in the early parts of your career. So I'm just
Hmm.
like that's my point, is like you
But
don't
yeah,
want to.
even later, depending upon what you're doing, and
Oh
always have
yeah,
a
if you're
goal.
changing
Always have
genre
a
or
goal in
something
mind. Well, or because you want attention to a specific book.
to a
So you
specific
can
book.
say, this particular book won the Derringer, this short story won the Derringer Award, and
Right.
it's included in this collection,
Right.
right? That's a way to get attention for that one book and boost the sales of that one book. Again, that's a short-term thing, but anyway, but
But
the
it's called
award, it's kind of
leverage.
a long-term thing, but it's just leveraging that into readers and sales
Right.
is what you're
Right.
really doing with those things. So,
Right.
yeah.
And like Troy said earlier, another tactic is to reactivate your backlist, which is what, something we already talked about.
Yes.
And then offer premium upsells, Kickstarters, bundle products, things like that.
Hmm.
Once you have a fan, turning them into a diehard fan usually only takes a few little extra, I don't know, little
Hmm.
extra effort. Um, I know that there's one author. I don't know. I think I gave his book to my son. It was such a cute book. It's a book about a little boy who oh gosh, I wish. Oh, I don't know where it's at. But I mean, this is another book that I absolutely love. What do you do with an idea? This artist was so much fun. It's Yamada. He's well known for his artistry. Oh my gosh, don't break the spine. Thought I just broke the spine. I heard the spine go psst.
And
So
you're
I'm
like,
like, oh
oh
no, the
no.
glue. But anyway, I love this book. But this was the 10th anniversary of it. And it was so good. But anyway, he was an author that I met at a Comic-Con, and he had such beautiful art, and he had pictures of his art up on the wall, right? Like behind it on his curtain, right? On his backdrop. And the art is what grabbed my attention. But when I saw he had a book with this art in it, I instantly became a fan. Like I was like, oh my gosh,
Hmm.
this guy's awesome, right? So I immediately was like, okay, this is a cool artist. And I bought his book, and I became a super fan. I became a super fan because he was there, and all he did was have a
Hmm.
conversation with me. And when he said to me, "Oh yeah, I've been looking for a new editor," I thought for a split second, I was like, oh, I could be that
Yeah.
person. But also, it was more or less because he was just friendly and inviting and engaging. And I was like, I'm hooked. Whatever you put out, I'll buy
Hmm.
it. It's the same thing with you and your readers. Anytime you, and this is very difficult for a lot of authors to understand and to grasp, because they think, well, I'm a nobody, I'm a nerd, I just want to sit in my hole and write my books, and I don't want to come out of the hole. But it was Frodo Baggins and it was Bilbo Baggins when they left the house that they had their adventures and
Hmm.
that they got the notice and the accolades that they did. It was not from being in the house. Bilbo writing his book to his little hobbit people wouldn't have got, you know what I mean? It wouldn't have, like I
Hmm.
know this is a fictional kind
Well,
of example, but it's one of those things where I'm trying to explain that it's not until you get out of your shell a little bit and become the brand that you are trying to become, whatever that may be. It could be a
mhm.
completely different persona than who you really are. You can still keep the who you are still hidden, but you have to become that brand and reach out of your
Mhm.
shell in order to
Well, the
get
one
that
thing
audience.
that you said right there is really important is going beyond the book. What did
Mm-hmm.
that guy have that drew your attention was his
It's
art.
art.
You know, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times, like what is James Owen when he signs every book and writes
He does his
and draws
dragon.
a drawing in every single book?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that takes a lot of time, but it goes beyond the book. So when you have one of his books, you have a unique collector item automatically if you had it signed by him, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he goes beyond the book and he spends time and talks to each fan. And what that does is it turns them into people who are rabid for his stuff because he's an amazing person and he went beyond the book. He went
Mm-hmm.
into the art. Now, I mean, and not all of us can do that. I could draw something in every single book that I autographed, and people would be like, please don't, that you just ruined this book. That's terrible, right? So like that wouldn't necessarily work as a tactic for me, but there are things you can do to go beyond the book. Have
Right.
video book trailers, have audio books, have other things that you offer people, character insights and things like that. You say, hey, if you're a part of my community and a part of my list, you get these things that you don't get anywhere else.
Right.
This is the only way to get those. And people will buy in. They will be your super fans for those things,
Right.
right? They will totally buy into those things. So, going beyond the book, Michael Evans, that was here a couple of weeks ago talking about
Mm-hmm.
Creatorwood, talks about this all the time.
Yeah.
And I like to talk about it too, because going beyond the book is what keeps people coming back to the book and coming back to you as an author.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So don't get too hung up on don't get too hung up on worrying about what people are going to think or say about you because you feel like you're going to make a mistake or be a little bit out of pocket. I am probably the most out of pocket person that you will ever encounter. And you know, it's funny, it was so funny, my my son-in-law, one time we were out doing something and I said something because I have no filter between my brain and my mouth and I don't even know what I said, but at the time I remember my son-in-law, who was fresh son-in-law at the time, turned around and looked at me and he said, Stacey, that was so out of pocket. And I was like, oh, don't know what that means, but okay. And it was like a couple weeks later that we were talking to somebody else. And right in front of my son in law, I looked at him and I said, I'm so sorry, I'm out of the pocket. And my son-in-law
That's
starts
awesome.
dying laughing. He's like, oh my gosh, that is so funny. So now whenever I'm with my son-in-law and I do something silly, I'll always be like, oh, Stacy's out of the pocket again. And he just thinks it's so funny. um it's one of those things where it's just kind of become a thing with me and my family. It's my brand right now with my family, like,
Hmm.
oh, Stacy's out of the pocket. It's the same thing with you as being an author. Don't be afraid. There's another, my daughter, she's amazing, but we've been on several road trips lately because of the son getting married and everything like that. And and so a couple times we've been in the car and bored, and she'll turn on a YouTuber, Charlotte Dobre, I think is her last name, Dobre. And she is so funny, just wild woman who just reads Reddit posts and comments on them, right? And one of the things that she does is she'll, like, when she gets really overexcited, she'll lean back and she'll go, why are you not embarrassed? like this. And it's so funny. She's just wild and crazy and loud. And I know that that's her brand. That's what she does. And that's how she attracts her true fans. Yeah, does everybody like it? No, it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's definitely her and what makes her special. And she's probably one of the most, I mean, next to Markiplier right now, I bet she's one of the most popular YouTubers out there right now because she does this fun, out of pocket,
Mm-hmm.
personality. And she was surprised that it would take off because she didn't become this persona to be popular. She just enjoyed what she was
She
doing.
just let herself
She
be.
just let her
Yeah.
be. And that's the thing about being an author and being authentic, and being authentic to you and what you feel is right for you. A great example of this is one of my other clients, TG Brown. He was very, very shy when he started out. He when I told him in my imprint academy, like, you need to kind of become the brand and understand that you are the person that your readers are going to connect with. He kind of like struggled with that initially, and coming out of his shell, he was trying to figure out what that meant for him. He's a
Mm-hmm.
CrossFitter, and like a lot of his content, believe it or not, is just him CrossFitting. And then when his wife got involved, she's like, my handsome husband who CrossFits and also is a cop writes this book, you should buy it. And it totally took off. It
Oh
works.
yeah, it
So
works.
it works. So
Well,
just
and
and he's just being authentic to what he does and who he already is.
well,
He didn't
yeah,
have to
and
create something new.
the author and reader community is one of the most accepting and forgiving communities that I've been in ever.
Yeah.
So I just often tell people, you're not going to church, you're going to a conference, right? You're going to
Mm-hmm.
get accepted for where you are and who you are, really, as long as you are actually being authentic. Where
Authentic.
people get into trouble is when they're trying to put on a particular face to
Mm-hmm.
pretend that
Mm-hmm.
there's someone that they're not, to sell books or
Yeah.
whatever the case may be. And when you do that, the result is that people see through it. They see that you're fake. And they're
Yep.
like, oh, well, I'm not interested in that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really funny because you'll see that a lot of mystery and thriller authors and horror writers are fun people to hang out with because we get all
Yep.
the darkness out in our books. But as long as you're true to who you are and that personality, your readers actually love it because they're like, oh, I am actually happy to see that he's probably not going to kill me. That's good, you know?
Right.
And we like to
Yeah.
put that probably in there just in case, but
Probably.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
probably
know,
not gonna kill
but I
you.
mean, this is being true to yourself and being true to your brand and being out there in front of readers is one of the things that's going to endear them to you.
To you. It's your
You're gonna
best
your
marketing strategy.
marketing,
Mm-hmm.
your advertising all should be harmonious. You should not have one marketing strategy and one advertising strategy. Those two should be very tied in with each other. So whenever people see anything from you, they see that same consistency and they
Exactly.
see that same authenticity. And that's how you're going to win people over to being real fans of yours for
For a
life,
long time, for as long as you
for a
want
long
them to
time.
be. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly.
So
So,
yeah.
yeah.
So I hope this was helpful to you guys. I hope this helps you understand a little bit more about the marketing strategies and tactics that you can implement. There are some things here, like I said, I mean, it's very, 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 very difficult for anybody to say to you, yes, this is the formula, this is what you need to do. You need to run Facebook ads on Tuesdays. Make sure
Oh,
like, there's no formula, guys. There is no formula. It is definitely like what we've said, it's like hunting unicorns, and it is just about getting noticed and getting somebody who's louder than you are to notice your book. That's literally what it is.
mm,
And it is kind of just a game of chance. So while you're
mhm,
out there spinning the roulette wheel, you might as well be having fun doing it. So just make sure that you're not going broke doing it. That's my
mhm,
biggest concern. That a lot of authors will say they've spent thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and nothing's coming about because of it. And it's I can always point, the reason is because they're not changing it up, or they're pushing or following a formula that has long been outdated, or they're not,
mhm,
they're not paying attention to their analytics. So
mhm.
just be very, very mindful that when you kick in with somebody who probably knows a little bit more about marketing for you, that they're looking at your goals and they're looking at your project goals and your overall author goals, and they're helping you pinpoint what you can do that is not going to put you out of your budget or out of these other, out of line of what you're really trying to accomplish, and that it's going to help you over your long-term goals. Because I see way too many people go, well, I just want to sign up for a marketing company that can help me run ads, and they'll fork over thousands of dollars, and then they'll be like, well, I didn't sell any books, I don't know what happened. And it's
Mhm.
because the marketing company wasn't willing to sit down with you and say, well, what are you trying to accomplish, and what are you willing to do,
Mhm.
and how are
Well,
you
and
able to do this?
the best marketing companies will not only do that, but they will tell you if it's not worth spending your money.
Right, right.
And that's finding someone that's that direct and that honest is challenging to do, but it can be done. But
It can be
again, that
done.
all eats into your ROI if you're paying somebody to advertise for you.
Right, right.
So it becomes extremely challenging to break even to actually make money. Unfortunately, this is a very personal thing that yes, you can have assistants who do stuff for you, but you need to guide and be the director. Because again, you're the brand. And the best marketing companies are the ones where you will give them your brand and your direction, and they will flow with that, with what you're
Right.
already doing and the way you already market your work.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that, that's advertising companies and marketing companies and PR companies. A lot of them are just there to take your money. And if they're not really getting to know you, who you are, and the things that you write and sell, it's not going to be worth your time and money
Yeah.
for sure,
I'm gonna leave.
unfortunately.
There was a not a conference, it was just kind of a class that I did a couple weeks ago. I was last month or something, and it was a bunch of local authors. I remember there was a guy in the background, and he back of the room, and he kind of, I could tell right out of the gate, he was like, he was just not, he was just looking for an easy button. And we were talking about AI at the time, but it was funny because he at one point goes, how am I going to sell my books? Like, and he was trying to get me to just kind of like stop giving me generalities. Like, how am I going to sell my books? And I just kind of looked at him and I was like, well, that would require some detailed information that I can't give you right this. I'm not going to ask you when there's 40 other people in the room. Like, you have to, like, we're
Hmm.
going to have a talk conversation. But he was looking for an easy button, and I could tell because he kept asking these questions that were very specific. And at one point
Direct and specific.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I was like, and I looked at him at one of the times, and he asked a question. And I remember I looked back at him and I said, well, you tell me how that's going to work. And he did not like me doing that, because at one point it was like he wanted me to tell him there was an easy button, and I couldn't tell him that. And so he was, well, what do I
Hmm.
do if this is the case? And I was like, well, why don't you tell me why you think that would work? And it was like he was talking about running like TV ads. And I was like,
Oh,
TV ads. I
so
I was like, what generation are you? Like, where are you
well,
at? Who watches
and
TV anymore?
what I've done in those situations is I often will say, okay, do you want me to analyze your work
Right.
in front of everyone?
Right.
Because my purpose in analyzing your work in that situation is to point out all the things that are wrong
Right.
and that are holding it back. And if you want me to, I can do that with an audience here, but I need your permission first
Yeah.
because we're going to do a deep dive and I'll use you as an example. If you want me to show you as an example of how you could sell your books, I will do that.
Right.
But you would likely rather have that as a private conversation.
Yeah.
Most authors would, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
reason is because when we're analyzing things like that, like we have to be honest with ourselves as
Mm-hmm.
authors and point out the warts and flaws and
Exactly.
not be singing our own praises because the only way you're going to grow is that legitimate self analysis and feedback and say, okay, why am I getting 500 clicks but no sales?
Right.
Well, what that means is there's something wrong in your system somewhere, and
Yep.
you need to find it and then proactively fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a struggle for a lot of authors because they're like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I want to go to all that trouble. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a
I'm
lot of work.
sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It is a lot of work, and I'm sorry that it's a lot of work, but it's still a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So just be aware if you're in a situation like that, if the instructor ever says, would you like me to do that? Be aware of what you're in for. Because
Mm-hmm.
I've been happy. Like I had someone that was like, they were very trying to ask very pointed questions about their plot. I'm like, do you want me to analyze your plot in front of the 150 people that are on this Zoom call?
Mm-hmm.
Because I will allow you to share your screen and I will do so. Or you can have a private conversation with me and not have me point out all the things that are wrong with your plot in front of all these people.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Most of the time, they back off really quickly because they don't want me to do that in a public setting. They'd rather spend a little more personal time and get a little quieter feedback than in
Yeah.
public.
And
But,
so,
and
yeah.
yeah,
So
just be
readers,
honest with
yeah,
yourself.
just be honest with
Yeah.
yourself. That's very much what I'm trying to say is like like it for advertising, for marketing, know thyself, and then talk to somebody that's going to be fair for you. And yeah, get referrals, because people, like, honestly, referrals are great. Referrals are great.
Mhm.
So if you're not sure who to go with, ask around, go to these writers conferences, go
Mhm.
to talk to other authors, ask who they talk to, ask who they, use or utilize. It would be You're going to be better off doing that, so that you're not getting some blowhard that talks
Mhm.
talks a good game and really doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. So that's my best advice for that. That's why you're gonna find a hard time. It's gonna be very difficult for you as an author to find a formula. There's no formula. You're writing your own story here. So
Mhm.
just be aware of that. But other than that, yeah, I hope that this helped, because honestly, there's a lot of good information in just learning the difference between advertising and marketing, learning what those strategies and tactics are that you can utilize. And if you ever have any questions about anything specifically, give give Troy a ring, or give me a ring. Boy, I'm showing my age. Hit us up on our website.
Give
give
us a
us a
ring.
give us a
Just give
ring.
me a call. You know,
Call me. I'm
just
here.
call me. I'm going
Just
to just put my number. My number's on the bottom of the screen.
five
Oh, it
five
isn't.
five.
No, it isn't. Anyway,
Anyway,
no,
so yeah,
email us,
but
get in
yeah,
touch through our website,
get in touch
whatever,
with us.
schedule a consultation.
Yeah,
I've got a
definitely.
bunch of like free 15-minute consultations that we can sit down for a few minutes.
Yeah,
And I can give you a little bit of background. And then if you want to
exactly.
move forward and hire me to do some work for you, I'm happy to do that as
Yeah,
well. But I'm always
exactly.
happy to talk to you about anything writing and writing business related because I want you to be successful.
Yeah, we
So,
do. We really do. Okay, so
oh,
Troy and I, if you're looking for us and you want to see our faces, you can come
yeah,
see it. You can come find us at Author Nation next month. Oh my gosh, it's coming up so
yes,
fast.
coming up
Um,
really fast.
so
Three
excited
weeks.
about that. And then Troy's writers retreat is right around the corner as well.
Yep,
And
October
yeah,
22nd.
and then
I
we'll
was just talking to Nick. We have a couple of slots left. We're actually looking at who we have coming and trying to assign them beds to see how many
ooh,
slots that
okay.
we actually have left. But we have
Okay.
a couple slots left for you. If you're looking for one of the VIP master private suites, you're probably out of luck at this point. But there are
There are
individual
some
beds
beds
and
left.
places like that
Okay.
that are left. And the other thing is, those beds are a blast, man. When you do that dorm type of thing at one of those retreats, I mean, or you share a room with someone, it's actually pretty amazing. You can get
It's
to
pretty
know someone
amazing.
really well and you can have a really good time. So, we're going to have a
Yeah.
great time in Tahoe. That's just in a couple of weeks.
Yes.
So I'm going to have a busy next, about
Couple weeks.
7 weeks or
Mm-hmm.
so because I'm also closing on a house and moving.
Yay.
So there's just all
I
kinds of
feel
fun
like we
stuff
just moved
happening.
you into that
Uh,
house. Oh,
It wasn't that long ago.
feels
And
like
if
it
we had
was
not
just.
found this place, I would not be moving yet. But anyway,
Yeah. But
just
anyway,
circumstances. But anyway,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
So
well, yeah,
um,
like, subscribe, you guys, hit us up. Like, seriously, hit us up and let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Because
yeah.
we don't want to be just, I mean, we're happy to meander around topics left and right, but like, in all honesty, we would love to hear what you guys want to hear about.
Mhm.
There are some perplexing situations out there. If you want us to talk specifics, like Troy said, if you're willing to be a guinea pig, heck, let us be a little guinea pig. Yeah.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, and I may over on my YouTube channel this week, I may drop a real quick update on the Anthropic situation and let you guys know what's happening with that.
oh
Um,
yeah, that would be
because there has been
interesting.
some interesting things have come to light, including the final list of works if you're eligible, and what some of the consequences might be for some other pirate sites that we're hoping this spurs some more
That'd be good.
action.
That would be
So
good.
anyway,
Also, everybody
but
should
yeah,
know we're talking to Tara at Novelio, and she's talking about coming on maybe in a couple weeks after things settle down in her world. So we're excited about that as well. So,
yep.
anyway, so look forward to talking to you guys next week. We hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll chat with you again. Oh, next time.
Next time. Next time. Bye, everybody. Have a good one.